Hello, welcome in everybody to today's video. Today's video is going to be a little different from my others. Today we're going to be discussing how I farm armor on a weekly basis. Armor is incredibly important to know how to farm correctly and efficiently. So, as it's Friday, just after reset, we're going to start with Zur. Zur every single week sells 3 exotics. These exotics are guaranteed to be at least 60 total. Keeping an armor piece that's below 60 total is not worth it. Because you're not going to be able to do anything with a piece under 60 total. Since we're here first on my Titan, we're going to go ahead and look at his exotic. Today's exotic is the Armamentarium. It gives you 2 grenades. This roll is not what you would want from an Armamentarium roll, especially on a Titan. The strength is too high, the discipline and recovery is too low. So no, this Armamentarium would not be worth picking up this week, and so I would move down to the Legendary Armor. So these gloves are not it. This chest piece is arguably it. I'm going to go into more detail about what I think is the right stat distribution for each class in a couple weeks as we get closer to Witch Queen. But I think this chest piece is worth it, especially from a PvP perspective, because in PvP, those are really the 3 stats you care about: recovery, discipline, intellect, in basically that order. So I would say this chest piece on Titan is worth it. So I would go ahead and grab this chest piece. I know the mark. If you don't have enough class items, I recommend at least having 4, 1 for each element type. If you don't have 4, you don't need 5. But if you don't have 4, pick up 1. But I would always have 4, 1 for each element type. The helmet, if I remember correctly, is bad, and the boots, if I remember correctly, are also bad. That's it for the armor here from Zur. Also, one thing you can do each week if you are low on exotics, especially, this exotic cipher will give you the exotic. This will give you the exotic cipher. This quest here. If you play the clanmate, it'll go faster. Especially if you play the clanmate and do like legend nightfalls with the clanmate, like it goes super fast. It's like 10, 12 activities. But you can pick up 2 more exotics that way. If you're super low on exotics and need them. So I just got a pair of Mark 44 stand sides. We're gonna go ahead and check those out while we're here. No. I would argue no on these. So we're gonna go ahead and dismantle these. And then we're gonna go ahead and travel over to the tower so I can walk you through how how the tower can help me with my armor farm. Alright, we're here at the tower now. So things the tower can do for you. This is perfect because I have a Prime Ingram. Prime Ingrams, when they drop armor, have a chance, not guaranteed, but a chance at being high stat. We just got a number, so we can dismantle that. But armor from Prime Ingrams has a chance at being high stat rolled. And that will occasionally help you out depending on what stats you need. And we'll get into a trick to get your stats better once we travel over to the help. Second up, when it's Iron Banner week, make sure you turn in your tokens. Your tokens are incredibly important to turn in. Iron Banner gives like raid level armor, so it's going to be over 60, but may not be the exact stat distribution you want, but it'll always be over 60. So Iron Banner is definitely worth turning in the tokens for. Next up, if it's a weekend where Trials is here, you could, if you have the spare materials for it, the legendary shards and glimmer that you would need for it, I could argue farming the armor from the Trials vendor. Trials vendor is Saint 14. If you need to farm armor more ways than the ones I'm showing you here today, then you can also do that. But please do not buy glimmer and legendary shards just for the sake of farming armor from Saint 14 for trials. It's not the most efficient way to farm armor. So please don't do it unless you have the spare resources. Um, Last thing to note is occasionally, once a week, Ada over here, I've seen it twice since she's been put in the game. She's been put back in the game. Occasionally, she will sell like super ridiculously high statted armor. Like the one week where she sold the ridiculous Warlock chest piece. It was like 30 and 30 in recovery intellect, and it was 60 overall. It was a ridiculous piece. Um, Not that intellect's any more important, but now if we got that piece like recovery discipline, something like that piece would be an instant go pick up. Next up, the 3 major dungeons. I don't say Shattered Throne because Shattered Throne has too wide of a loophole to be going in for armor, but if there is something you want that's a Dreaming City weapon, I would say maybe go look at Shattered Throne for that, because there's a reason to go into Shattered Throne for that. First, you would do Pit of Heresy. I can't currently see it on this character, because I haven't done the Shadowkeep campaign. But first, you go do Pit of Heresy. Pit of Heresy is the Moon Dungeon. You can unlock it by opening the Shadowkeep campaign and then completing it. At the end, the final boss drops a guaranteed piece that will be a minimum of 16 stats. Will be a minimum of 16 and 2 stats. Now, you can spike that armor, and you could hope the game doesn't hurt your RNG by using a mod here on your Ghost. These mods, this armor mods that they added at the beginning of this season, beginning of season 15, there's a discipline, intellect, mobility, recovery, resilience, and strength. They will guarantee that a armor piece you get will drop with at least 10 of that stat. So on most characters, for 90% of situations, I would choose recovery, because having 4 pieces at 10 recovery, and then your class item also at 10 recovery, that's 50 recovery with 0 mods on. And then you could, well, it would be 50 recovery with 1 mod on, which is at least a start. You could then run another 4 mods of recovery, and that put you at 90 recovery and use 5 mods, which is really good, actually. But you're not going to get that bad of RNG, so you have to figure out like when your pieces drop what you want exactly. On every class, I think the second most important stat is discipline. So if you want higher discipline armor, I think discipline is the second most important stat in PvE. In cases where you're a hunter or a titan, I could argue for mobility or resilience for the respective classes. Resilience has a cap to how useful I think it is on a Titan, but mobility you always want to get as close to 100 as possible on Hunter, because you want the shortest cooldown possible on your dodge because of what your dodge provides to you, and we will go over that in a future date when I break down Hunter armor wants and needs. And I will also do the same for Titan. On Warlock, you just need recovery discipline because recovery affects your rift cooldown. Alright. Then you would go do Prophecy here. Prophecy guarantees 1 armor drop for sure when you kill the final boss the first time each week per character. This will be a guaranteed armor drop from the final boss immediately after you kill him. You can also get armor through the other encounters, but it's not guaranteed. But the reason to do Prophecy, still even now it's not a pinnacle, is because at the end of a clear, the first time on that character, you're guaranteed an armor drop from killing the boss. Lastly, I would go do Grasp of Avarice, and if you are high enough level and you are confident to do it, I would do the Master Grasp of Avarice. The reason for this is because of the Artifice Armor. Artifice Armor is armor that drops with an extra mod slot. And the extra mod slot is a chest. It's one of these mod slots. It's one of these. So instead of like on this piece, because this piece is from Vogue, right? I mean, this piece is from the Moon. It dropped from Pit of Heresy. So instead of this piece having the Nightmare mod slot on it, right? If it dropped from Grasp and was a Artifice piece, this would just be another slot here for you to slot in another one of these pieces. The reason that's important is, let's say you're doing Corrupted. And Corrupted has the Night spit a lot of fire at you, and there's a lot of boop damage. There's a lot of area of effect damage because of Sadia and stuff, right? Well, now if I run something like this, let's say we run Taking Charge, and we keep the small recovery mod, right? Well, now you're out of spots, right? Because your armor piece is full. But if we wanted to run a reserves and we run an Artifice piece, we can just throw in a reserves here. We have the space for it. I mean, you can run even rocket reserves. You can run a single rocket reserves. You can run a fusion reserves. You can run almost any reserve. Yeah, you can run any reserve in the game with a stat build like this. If you needed to run a discipline mod, you could still run some of the smaller reserves. I mean, you can run a fusion rifle reserve. You can run, a hand cannon reserve if you're on Ariana's Vow. You could run trace rifles if you're on Divinity. You could run a sword reserve. Obviously, the sidearm reserve is for Magnum, but we don't use the Magnum in PvE. There's options here that get opened up to you if you have an Artifice piece, which is why I think the Artifice armor is so powerful. And assuming we go into the future, there'll be 3 options by the end of 2022 to farm Artifice armor. So I think having that Artifice armor is really good for you, because having 3 ways to farm it in the future, the more ways you have to farm it per week, the better. And so if you can just run those 3 clears per week per character, if you're on 3 characters, and it's 9 chances at Artifice armor, that's relatively good. And that's not counting what else we'll have. Lastly, this is going to be kind of convoluted for me to walk you through, but I think it's really helpful to understand because it is the most efficient way to farm armor in the game long term. I'm going to change to my Warlock to show this off, because my Warlock has all this unlocked. I don't have this all unlocked to my Titan yet, but I need to work on that over the next couple weeks and start farming armor this way on my Titan. So, we're going to take a step back to last season. Last season was Season of the Splicer. During Season of the Splicer, the Umbral Tier 3 focusing for the armor, for some reason, gives out high stat armor. Like high distribution, high stat total armor. So, what you need for that armor is corrupted data. Now, you'll get a really good amount of corrupted data if you haven't done the Splicer seasonal quests. You can go ahead and do all of them, and you'll get about 600, 700 corrupted data, which will help you focus about 3-4 engrams into this tier 3 focusing. Okay? Now, this tier 3 focusing is going to guarantee that the recovery, discipline, intellect, mobility, resilience, or strength on that armor piece, I think has to be a minimum of 15. If I remember the way this works, I'm pretty sure it has to be a minimum of 15 if you focus it into this stat piece, okay? So, what you would want to do is when you have the corrupted data, you'd want to go to your ghost and you want to choose the stat that you think is less important of the two, okay? So for me, I always run recovery because, oh my gosh, because recovery is the hardest one out of the current stats in the game that are viable. We'll talk about intellect a different day. That are viable that create an instance where the mods are expensive. So recovery mods cost 4. Every other mod besides recovery costs 3, unless you're intellect, which then you cost 5. And because intellect is now such a useless stat, we don't care about intellect on our armor, so we don't spec for intellect at all. We just run recovery discipline in almost any activity in the game. So how do we farm corrupted data efficiently each week outside of our splicer requests? Well, glad you asked. First, you need to make sure you're stocked up on ether. You get ether from simply just killing enemies and playing the game. You take that ether and you turn it into key codes. My key code inventory is now full. I can hold 5 because my thing is upgraded to hold 5. Right now, we're gaining bonus ether from completing Crucible matches, okay? So every week, that's going to change. I think it's every week. That changes. Actually, no, it's daily. This changes every day, I'm pretty sure. Yes. Almost positive this changes every day. Okay? So what you would do is, in order to gain yourself the corrupted data, you go do overrides until you burn all your key codes, until you burn all your ether. Which if you're being efficient about it, you should be able to hold 200 ether and 5 key codes, and you should be able to run 10 straight. Those will give you chances at different umbrals. Sometimes it'll even drop like a tier 3 focused umbral from Season of the Splicer. So those will give you a high stat piece just from playing there, right? Well, it also gives you corrupted data. You get about, if you're fully leveled up, you'll get about 65 corrupted data a clear. Well, 65, 150 divided by 65 is roughly 3 clears, okay? So 3 clears will get you 150 corrupted data. You then take that 150 corrupted data, and you go turn it into an Ingram. You could do 3 Ingrams per week per account. So you have to choose which character really needs this armor. And you can go on any character. So if like you have one character who's upgraded all this, right? Who has all the Splicer stuff done, but you say you need armor, say you're a Warlock main, but you need armor on your Hunter because you're getting your Hunter ready for Witch Queen, and you want to make some builds on your Hunter, you go do the stuff on your Warlock, then you go to your Hunter and you focus the Umbral on your Hunter. You just make sure you have the Umbrals saved up to turn in. Okay, well now, you're out of ether for the week, for right now. Well, there's something else you can do. If you've completed your Splicer quest, you can go do the expunge missions around the planets. The fastest one is the TARDIS mission on Europa. There's a skip you can do, this one right here, that skips about 3/4 of the activity. And it's super easy, doable on all characters, you just need to throw on a sword. And you could do the mission in about 5 minutes on Titan or Hunter. It's a little longer on, probably more like 7 minutes on Warlock because you don't have a burst damage super that does that much damage. But on Titan, you can run Crash, and you can burn through this in 5 minutes if you just run tier 100 and like nothing else matters. You'll get your super if you get tier 100 and on the super. And you'll be able to just use Arbalist, because Arbalist is anti-barrier, and Arbalist is the most damage out of any anti-barrier weapon right now. And you can do damage to the boss's shield, because it's a Hydra. And it'll go immune, you do the boss fight, and then you can kill it, finally, with Thunder Crash. Or if you're on Golden Gun, you just shoot it once with Celestial Nighthawk. Once you get it just below half, it'll die. And that is the weekly rotation for armor farming. The last couple things you can do, not required, but you can do, is there is currently 4 raids in the game that drop relevant armor. Vault of Glass, Deepstone Crypt, Garden of Salvation, and Last Wish. 4 raids, all 4 of them drop relevant, up-to-date armor. If you're a solo player, there is a video from Esoteric on how to get raid loot solo. If you don't want to LFG for a 6-man and you don't want to learn these raids. However, I would highly recommend learning these raids. They're lots of fun and they're all super cool. Outside of maybe Garden kind of sucks, but that's a different story. You can also, if you're a super gamer, you can run a master Vault of Glass, and every single week this will be a different focused armor. Okay, I would recommend on Warlock running recovery and discipline focused weeks to help you get high discipline and high recovery armor. If you're on a Titan or Hunter, I would run discipline weeks, recovery weeks, and then either resilience or mobility weeks, depending on which class you are playing. Every time you get an armor piece drop from clearing this raid on Master, it'll be guaranteed to be 15 in that stat that's being focused. So this week's discipline, so you'd be guaranteed to go in there and get 15 minimum. Every time you get an armor piece that drops, obviously it's RNG whether you get an armor piece or not. You get 15 discipline in that armor piece guaranteed. Say next week's recovery, next week you'd be guaranteed 15 recovery. So if that case, say you're running this, and you know you're going to get 15 recovery on the piece. Well, you go to your Ghost, and you can choose, well, I'm a Titan, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Resilience as well, right? Because say you're on a Titan, right? Well, why am I Warlock? But say, oh, I'm a Titan, I need extra Resilience. So to help get my class ability up, because the wall is useful for certain builds. Well, we can run high Resilience, run this Resilience mod, and every time you get a recovery drop from that, you'll be guaranteed to get 10 resilience and 15 recovery on that piece. So that guarantees 25 stats right there. And in that case, you'll be pretty much guaranteed to get basically no mobility, which is what you would want on a Titan. You want like as lowest mobility as possible because you don't need it for anything. Say you're on a Hunter, well, you would go mobility, right? And that recovery week, you'd go recovery mobility, and now you're guaranteed high recover, high mobility armor, which is probably the 2 best stats to focus into on a Hunter, especially if you're a PvP player. That is generally my weekly rotation. I run all 3 dungeons. I run at least a regular Vault of Glass. I run overrides until I get enough corrupted data that I can focus 3 engrams on my character. I run the corrupted missions. And then if it's an Iron Banner week, you turn in Iron Banner tokens. I also make sure I'm turning in my primes regularly. Couple extra things you can do. I have started adding in the Master Empire Hunt on Europa. This piece, if you have the right upgrades from Varix, when you clear it, you're going to be guaranteed 1 high stat piece. I don't even have them unlocked currently on this character. I have stuff that I have to do on this character to unlock it. But you can unlock the Master Empire Hunt, which, if you have the right upgrades from Barracks, can guarantee you one high set armor piece if you platinum clear it, which makes it worth it to do. Lastly, and this is if you really need armor and you don't really have anything else to do and you need something to farm, the last thing you can do is run Legend Dares of Eternity. Legend Dares of Eternity guarantees that you get relatively high stat armor every time you clear it. It's not going to be necessarily great armor every single time, and you're not guaranteed armor every single time. But if you do get an armor piece while you're playing it, it's going to be pretty decent statted. I don't know what they're thinking behind this was exactly, and it's not limited. Like, you can literally just go forever and farm forever. And so if you get a good 6-man crew, you just everybody throw on G-Horn and you just go. You just zoom right through it. This week's actually not a bad week, seeing as it's Vex, Cabal, Crota. That's three relatively fast encounters. So you could probably run this in about 10 minutes ish, with 6 people that are halfway decent and all have G-Horn on. And so you could be getting a chance at high set armor every 10 minutes, which is like the fastest way to get high set armor. But I would only go do these if you have no other way of getting high set armor, because you need something else if you don't have all this stuff unlocked and you don't do all this stuff every week. I would definitely recommend doing Dares of Eternity. But that's how I run my high set armor every single week. A couple things to note. We are no longer, due to changes to DIM, in a state where I think we need 100, 200 pieces of armor. Especially legendary armor. I would look, when you're looking at your armor, for the exact stat distribution you need on that armor, and then I would start looking at what you need for other stats. And then you look at your exotics. More than likely, what is holding you back from getting the stat distribution you are looking for is your exotic armor. Legendary armor drops high statted relatively quickly a lot of the time. You're doing prime engrams, you're doing your dungeons, you're doing your raids every week. If you do your endgame activities every single week, you're gonna get relatively good high stat armor relatively fast. However, exotics are a completely different story. Like, you have to know which exotics you want, which exotics you need for builds, and which exotics to farm when, and where to farm them when. Obviously, double loot GMs, double loot Master Nightfalls, always the best way to farm exotics as a whole and masterwork materials. However, if you don't have those as options, then the next best way to farm exotics themselves is by doing the Legend or Master Lost Sector. So today, right now, Friday, January 14th, the current Legend Lost Sector is Bay of Drowned Wishes. It is an Overload Unstopped Lost Sector. And is dropping arms. If something that I see comments for, maybe in the future, if people want to see how I farm each one of these lost sectors, I can create a super long video of me clearing every single currently available Legend Lost sector in the game. But I think most people right now have all the exotics they want. I statted at least this time of year. Most people do. We're really close to Witch Queen. But I might do this. I might do this video anyway as we enter Witch Queen. Because I know a lot of people like seeing how other people clear these lost sectors really fast. Because you can clear them in like, especially the legend ones, you can clear them in like 2-3 minutes. Like they're a joke. Especially this one, because this one doesn't even have a boss at the end. The last thing you have to kill is an overload. And there's a lot of really good ways to farm this lost sector relatively efficiently. And so that is all for this video. That's all I have for you. I just wanted to break down how I get my armor every week. Because it's something that I know a lot of people have questions about, and I figured I'd walk through it so that way everybody could see how I do it every week and how I get things that look like this and all my other high statted builds that I run on a weekly basis, from this to, and this is not even like, yeah, there you go, now it's right, to things like this, another 100 build that's gonna be done in a second whenever it applies everything. It didn't apply the mod. Okay, that's tough. But the more things, the more high set armor you have, the better. The main thing you gotta focus around is your exotics. I mean, if you don't have high set exotics, it's not gonna matter. And they don't have to be perfect. Like if your armor is super good, like look at my legendary armor here. If your legendary armor is super amazing, you don't really have to worry about like how good your exotics may or may not be. So that's why I prioritize my legendary armor, because even if you have bad exotics, you can make up for it with really great legendary armor. But if you get great exotic armor, you can have good legendary armor and great exotic armor, and you'll be able to make builds like crazy. That is all for this, and I will talk to everybody later. I will talk to everybody on Monday for hopefully our first Titan build, if I can get the rest of the armor for it. If not, it'll probably be a Warlock build. Alrighty, everybody. I will talk to everybody on Monday. Please do not forget to leave a like, comment, and please do subscribe. That's it for this one. Peace out, and bye-bye.